And hello, movie lovers. And today I actually have my good friend Beth from Made for Movie TV podcast. We're going to be talking about this little short film that's actually being sparked up by the Oscars and stuff like that. It's actually going to be, it's actually not nominated for the Oscars yet or anything like that, but it's a contender to be nominated. So that's something that's very interesting. So without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's get on with it. This is my review for Spotless. Hey, Beth, how are you?
Hi, John. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for having
doing
me
great.
back.
You're welcome. It's good to have you back again. Last time we actually did this, we did the what did we do? We ended up doing the fog.
Um,
No, the thing.
yes,
The thing.
the thing. Yes, because we did
Yeah,
the fog last year.
last year. That's right. And so now we're back again, and this time we're actually covering a little short film. And you actually did a couple of short films with me last year.
Right,
And
and one of them won. One of them won at least one Oscar. So fingers crossed.
right, we might be the good luck crew for this.
Right.
So right. So I'm just going to give a little bit of synopsis of what this film's about. In the film, we follow a 15-year-old girl named Ruby. During her period, she doesn't dare to ask her mother for tampons or sanitary pads because she knows the money is tight. She tries to fix it herself. With the film, they tackle the theme of period poverty. So, and this is also a Dutch film. That's also another thing I want to mention as well. So, I definitely like this film coming out of the gate because when you first get introduced to Ruby, she wakes up, she has period blood on her, and she goes to the bathroom. And then once again, it's graphic and it's actually really in detail of what the graphic of it is. But underneath the surface of it, underneath this whole entire plot, you see the struggle that this girl is going through, where she wants to tell her mom, but she's also hesitant to tell her mom, "Hey, look, I need tampons," and it's just sad for her to go through that. And here we go. We live in America, right, where we feel like we're privileged to live here because of the fact that we can actually we can actually go on the shelves, get it, and also too we can actually afford it. On poverty level during that in that country, it's actually hard for them to get stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your initial thoughts coming out
Well,
of it?
I agree with you. But I do think actually period poverty is it does happen in the United States. I
Mm-hmm.
actually Googled it right before I jumped on with you because when you asked me to do this film, remember I said, "Oh, I think I've heard of the film," but what I heard of was a an activist group trying to combat the period poverty. But I was really surprised at how many activism groups in the United States are also working to help girls who need their stuff for their period every month because they can't afford it. But I I I have to say when I watched this film, I was really surprised at how it's very fast moving. I had to pause it in the middle the first time I watched it, and I was like 8 minutes in. I'm like, it felt like 2 minutes. So it doesn't. It again, like when we do these short films, one of the things I love about them is they don't waste time, and this one is no exception, and it moves beautifully. Um, and I love how it's filmed. I love that all of the people, the actors are just really real looking people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the girl who plays Ruby, it looks like a regular old teenage girl, and I like that because here in the United States everything's so stylized and all the makeup and all the things, and it's so refreshing to see a film that's tackling such a big subject, and it's just not. It's just trying to be as real as it can be.
And that's something that I really liked about it was the fact that it is has that little sense of realism to it. Whereas it's basically this girl who's like your girl next door type, and not like where they're trying to dress her up and over stylist her, because you can have stylization in movies, especially in the United States, where they try to doll the person up and they're not relatable. With this, you can actually be relatable as to someone that might be on school campus and things like that. So it's very eye opening. Also, too, like you mentioned
Mhm.
before, this movie's also very quick moving pace and stuff like that. It doesn't waste any time. It knows its identity. It knows what it wants to be. And you're 5 minutes in before you know it, the movie's actually almost over with. So
Right.
and it's also such a deep movie to the point
Mhm.
where you actually have to pause it for a minute and just take a deep breath with this film
Right.
because of the message that it's trying to send.
Exactly. And I think I see why there's Oscar buzz for this film because the other thing it's doing that I think works so well is, you know how they say when you tell a story you're supposed to show don't tell? This movie does not tell. It is all dialogue, all camera angles, all everything. You as the viewer come and figure out what's happening. There is no like this is what's happening and this is what's happening next, and I think that makes all the images so much more impactful, especially that scene
Mm,
where she's borrowed a tampon from her friend. And I really like that scene too because she's like, "Can I borrow a tampon?" On the front, it's kind of like again, like almost as if she doesn't really understand the situation her friend is in, which isn't uncommon for teenage girls. It's pretty real. And then she has to wash it under the sink because she doesn't have another one. So she has to make this one last, and it just made me so sad to watch that moment, all the moments, but that one
mhm.
in particular where, that's where she is in her life, and that's where she feels like she has to do because I think she's also trying to protect her mother from I think her mother is carrying a lot of guilt that, we heard in that phone call. It's such a short scene that, she talks about it's harder when they get older, and it's just really beautiful in how sad it is and how much of a burden she carries just to be a woman.
Exactly, and also too, you get to see her. They're doing grocery shopping too, and they're
Mhm.
also there's actually they actually do go into this whole entire deal where the mother's on the phone and she's in debt, and therefore now they need help with groceries. So therefore, they actually do go to a place where people do donate stuff to people
Mhm.
that are in need. And I was thinking to myself when I'm watching this, we think about groceries, we think about everyday supplies when it comes down to eating and stuff like that, but we
Yeah.
don't think of the necessities of what women need to keep themselves clean, as far
Mhm.
as a tampon goes when women bleed once a month.
Yeah.
So it made me stop and think, wow, we can do so much more to help the situation. Yes, we need food to survive. Yes, we need water to survive. Yes, we need ways of coping and stuff like that. But we also need supplies for women to where they can actually have something going on with their tampons too.
Yeah, yeah, because
So,
they're not there. That's not something we can change about your body. You're gonna have your period if you're you know after you're I don't know whatever age that is. It's different for every woman, and if you can't afford it, I mean that's the stark reality is that it's a necessity, and
hmm
it's a worldwide crisis. I think it just based on the little bit of research that I did, and obviously they made this movie, so I think there's a lot of activism happening right now over this particular, so I think it's a really timely topic.
it definitely is a timely manner, to be honest with you. And I didn't know up until you did your research that we are going through poverty in the United States as well. I was just primarily fixed on the fact that how good we actually have it in some areas. I know people are in poverty, but I didn't know it was on the poverty level of maybe this kind of poverty level. So I do appreciate you doing your research on that. That means a lot to me on that. But another thing that got me, yeah, where basically now the girl's inside the supermarket, she's buying some chocolate, but you could see also too that she wants to shoplift and take the tampons, and then she winds up shoplifting them, and then of course she gets caught, and then there's this beautiful moment between her mom and her
Mhm.
where she goes, look, this is my issue, you're still a kid, be a kid, do not let what my situation is be part of your situation.
Right.
She goes, we will make means to survive, but you need to go, if you need something, tell me, don't go
Yeah.
without. And that's
Yeah.
something that I really liked.
Yeah, and I thought the actress did such a great job at the end. I mean, she did a beautiful job of just showing this girl's shame, which she shouldn't be feeling. It's not her fault. None of it's her fault. And she's carrying such a heavy weight and burden, and just the shame of her crying. And at first I really didn't know how that was going to end when she came out and she was well, I, I kind of had a feeling she was going to go back and shoplift them when we saw that one scene where she was just standing there staring at them. So I kind of thought, okay, when they showed her buying, like, actually stealing them, I thought, oh, I wonder where this is going to go. And so the ending was a little bit hopeful, but I just really wasn't sure what was going to happen, if the mom was going to get mad about it or she was going to get arrested or whatever, because they don't show the consequences. They just show her outside the store. I think she's outside the store with her mother and she's crying, and it's just so sad.
It really is. It's heartbreaking. Also, there's also another scene where she's getting picked on because she has some
Yeah.
period blood on her, and these kids are just this kid is just being a douchebag to her.
Yeah, and then everybody laughs and it's really sad, and they didn't show the after effect of that. I mean, but I think the entire movie is an after effect because,
Hmm.
she waited for everybody to leave and then checked to make sure wasn't having an accident, wasn't bleeding through her clothes. And then as soon as she realized she wasn't, she ran out right behind the girls, but she was trying to hide the fact that she wanted to look and make sure because, she's wearing this one tampon for her entire period, and it's just really sad. But I did want to say, John, something that I noticed, and I feel like it may or may not have been, I kind of feel like it probably was intentional with the filmmaker, but there's the scene where she's after school, she's walking home and she's walking on that big concrete, I don't know if it's a playground or a parking lot or whatever it is, and her building, which if you noticed, like the building that she lives in opens the movie, closes the movie, and she's walking towards
Hmm.
her home, and all of a sudden, like, there's just a shadow over of this apartment building, and I thought to myself, that's like the symbolism of her poverty, right? Literally the shadow of this poverty is over her as she's walking to her house. The shade is covering her because the building doesn't show the sunshine, which you can see behind her and you can see on the other side of the building. But in that moment, she's completely covered in shade. And I thought, wow, that is, I don't know if you picked up on that, but I was like, wow, what just happened?
I'm glad that you picked up on that because I didn't realize that up until now you mentioned it because it's like an overshadow of the effects that's going on within our life. And not only that, but you have the property of the looking of the buildings. You also have that hanging over in the balance. Then you also have the events with her mom and making sure that her mom's okay and her
Mhm.
sister's okay and having that property over her too. So yeah, you have all that stuff going over her shoulder to the point where this building is more than just a building; it's a character in its own self in its own
It,
right.
it really is. And I just thought it was so subtle, but it had to have been purposeful. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because I mean, that's her life. That's where she is. That's her situation. And but I did like that little moment, that really small moment where she and her sister were dancing, because it showed that they
Mhm.
did have some joy in their lives. That it wasn't just living in poverty and having to deal with having no tampons when you have your period. And I like that moment.
Me too.
Again, all the scenes are so short, they're so impactful, but that was one of my favorites.
It's also about trying to be strong for your sister
Right.
when you're at your lowest because you don't want her to show a moment of weakness to her,
Right. Yes.
and that's
And
what I got out of that.
yeah, and I mean, I think that I think there's a real concern about her sister too, because she's not in adolescence yet, but she will be. I mean, it's right around the corner, right? And she's probably worrying that the same thing's going to happen with her sister that is happening with her.
Mhm. Definitely, I could definitely see like okay, after I move out or after it's going to be her turn. What's her life going to be like if I'm
Mhm.
gone or anything too? So I can definitely see that. And then there's also how you were saying like each scene is in a scene within its own self, where basically where you have one situation and that one situation escalates to another situation, and that's what I felt like. I felt like after the kids picked on her in the gym, that one situation escalated to her stealing,
Mhm.
and then that stealing led to the phone call from from the police officer to her mom. So
Yeah.
it's all about consequences. This movie also teaches you about consequences and everything too.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree. And you're right. I mean, that moment, maybe she wouldn't have bothered to go and steal those tampons had it not been for that moment where, and it wasn't just that guy being a douchebag. Everybody started laughing when he was making
Hmm.
fun of her, and I- unfortunately, it's funny because this is a foreign film for us because we're in the United States, but so much of what this girl is going through is just it happens to a lot of girls, right?
Hmm.
Like getting picked on and made fun of and laughed at. That is not like just one culture in our world. That is I f- I felt that really strongly. I felt that moment because I'm like, yeah, that happens. And
Yes.
that's another thing. I think that's another thing I like about this film is that it's relatable. Like it is truly a relatable film, even if you don't live in poverty, even if you don't aren't a woman that don't, there's a lot of themes going on, but I just think the message is so powerful that we need to have that it shouldn't be it shouldn't be a privilege to have a tampon when you have your period.
I definitely agree. But I think this movie deserves to be able to. I don't wonder why it's actually won several awards here. I
Yeah.
don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, I did see that on on their website. In fact,
Yeah.
I was gonna count the number of awards that it has already won. And
Okay.
it is, let's see here, we've got, I'm not gonna pronounce them because some of them are like German, so I don't want to like um make them make them sound ugly because I got my Wisconsin accent up here. One, two, three, four, five, six. So it looks like so far one, two, three, four, five. So far it has won 6 prizes. And I say so far because I'm sure there's going to be more to come.
Most definitely. I can definitely see this movie having legs, and it's gonna be one that's gonna be up for running. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I like movies and short films that have a message to them.
Yeah.
I've been searching for something that has a message, and this one definitely has one.
Yeah,
So that's
I love the message of this. I mean, I don't love the message, but I love that we talked about this with Punch Drunk, and it is graphic in that it shows period blood. You and I have talked about that. It doesn't bother me. It didn't bother
either.
you, and it didn't bother me in this film either. And I'm glad because I think that it's a we have to tell stories that are real, right? And these are real stories, and I think that the way that they do it is so powerful, impactful, that I loved the graphicness of that. I think it's really important. I think this is a movie that I hope gets a lot more buzz, that I hope gets people talking about, because I think it will bring to light a really important, it's such an important, all over the world. It's just something we need to talk about. It's something that needs to end. Period. Poverty needs to end.
It does. It really does. And it's just sad to know that people are going through this.
Yeah,
And
it is. It's
are
really sad.
and it's just saddened me. It left me empty inside knowing that this happened. As a matter of fact, I was even thinking about doing research to help the situation where basically is donating tampons. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, where do I go? Because
Yeah.
there's not really any place that you can go. So I'm still doing some research on that. But I'm just
I think
trying to put myself out there a lot more.
I think that there are some like some groups in the United States, and I feel like I remember a few years ago on Facebook somebody was asking for like donations for like little plastic bags or something to put tampons and things in, but I
Mhm.
don't remember what the cause was, and I don't remember like only have a vague recollection of it like during the pandemic. I wish I remembered, but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we're going to see more advocacy groups and more activist groups come forward and try and start more programs for girls with their period to help them.
Me too, as well. So I think that's everything that you and I had wanted to cover as far as the movie Spotless goes, right?
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Go Oscars. I hope so. I really loved this film. I really did. I think it was beautiful, beautiful film.
Beautifully well done, beautifully well crafted. Also, too, it handled the maturity level of what needed to be told in a great way.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
And you do need it. And here's the thing: yes, it's graphic, but it's graphic for a reason. It's just not there just because of the fact that they want to be graphic. It's there to tell a story. It's there to put the plot in the forefront, and allowing the audience to see how graphic this actually is.
Right. And we talked about this with Punch Drunk, that I think it's important to tell a story this way. You know, I really do.
I think so too as well. So with that being said, where can everybody reach you at if they want to go on ahead and follow you on your socials and things like that?
We are on Twitter at TV Movie Club Pod 1. I should say Made for TV Movie Club Podcast. You can give that a Goog, or give the hashtag MFTVMC Podcast Goog. So like I said, we're on Twitter at TV Movie Club Pod 1. We're on Instagram at made_for_TV_movie_club. And then you can just search us on Facebook at Made for TV Movie Club Podcast. We're going into our 3rd year.
How does it feel going to get there?
It's really fun to see those numbers going up after all this time. So it's been great. We've had a really good time. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. We're finally like hitting a groove. You know what I mean? It took a little. I mean, it didn't take a while because we've always had the same thing going on. But I think we've really hit a place where we just are like really, really enjoying it, and I think our audience is too.
Awesome! Congratulations to you and your co-host as well, with all the achievements that you guys are doing over there. I do listen to your podcast as well. So you're very welcome. So with that being said, that's going to be it as far as our review goes. But tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm going to have independent director Crichton Hobbs on the show to give some tips and tricks on how to do being a film director, if you want to get into film school and things like that. So he's going to be on the show tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time for that. And that's everything for right now that I'm working on. But I am working on doing some Christmas movie reviews probably for next week. So stay tuned for more information as the days go by. So always until next time, guys. Bye-bye.